Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 53 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome aboard, and if you've been a loyal listener, welcome back. We have much to get to today and not a lot of time to do it. We have a few sections that we'll get into, but they may not be the normal ones you're used to hearing. Let's get to our content for the week. A three-person arbitration panel sided with entrepreneur Mark Lore and MLB legend Alex Rodriguez last week in a sale dispute against current Minnesota Timberwolves and WNBA's Minnesota Lynx owner Glenn Taylor. Lore and Rodriguez are continuing their pursuit of majority ownership. The arbitrators determined Taylor, who agreed to sell to the two in 2021, violated the sales agreement terms when he backtracked by saying they missed a $600 million payment that would have secured an 80% majority control. $600 million? Not that much, right? Lore and Rodriguez have added former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg and former Google CEO Eric Schmidt as partners in funding. The ruling now leads to a vote between NBA owners to decide the franchise's control. 23 of 30 NBA owners must approve an ownership change. Like we mentioned last week, Brandon Ingram is getting an extension. The Toronto Raptors' new forward, who was acquired via trade, agreed to a 3-year, $120 million deal last Tuesday. It includes a player option for the 2027-28 season. Ingram's contract was set to expire over the summer. He's making $36 million this season. With this new contract, the Kinston, North Carolina native will make $40 million annually. Now Ingram can focus on playing basketball instead of contract negotiations. Last week was our trade deadline special edition episode, and now this week we have another special edition, and we'll cover the All-Star Weekend. In this special edition of Diehlman at Halftime, we'll look at the dunk contest, three-point contest, and the All-Star game itself. Our normal highlight, lowlight, random stat, and game of the week will return next week. This episode is entitled As the Stars Align in Golden State. So, who's raising eyebrows at the moment? Let's start off with the three-point contest, and this section is entitled Shooters Gonna Shoot. The three-point contest is always a great showing of the NBA's top sharpshooters. This year's contestants were New York's Jalen Brunson, Detroit's Cade Cunningham, Cleveland's Darius Garland, Miami's Tyler Hero, Golden State's own Buddy Hield, Brooklyn's Cam Johnson, Milwaukee's Damian Lillard, the two-time defending champion, and the LA Clippers' Norman Powell. The first-round eliminations were Johnson, Powell, Cunningham, Brunson, and Lillard. Hield had 31 in the first round. That tied teammate Steph Curry's record for the most points in a single three-point contest round. Hield, Hero, and Garland remained to compete in the final round. Hero began with 24 points to set the bar for Garland and Hield. Garland came up short with 19 points. It all came down to Hield. After a slow start, Hield got in a rhythm. He had 15 points heading into his money rack, which means all 5 balls on the rack were worth 2 points instead of 1. In order to beat Hero, Hield needed to cash in all 5 money balls for 25 points. He hit all of them except the 4th one. With a narrow 1-point victory, Hero took home the crown. Hero is also the Miami Heat's 5th three-point champion, which breaks a tie with the Boston Celtics and Chicago Bulls for the most three-point contest champions by franchise. Hero definitely heated things up in San Francisco. Next, let's go to the dunk contest, and this section is entitled Throwdown, Showdown. He did it. Unlike the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, Mac McClung won the dunk contest for the third year in a row. He's now tied with Nate Robinson for the most dunk contest wins ever, but he's the only person to do it 3 consecutive times. This year's dunk contest participants were McClung of the NBA G League's Osceola Magic, San Antonio's Stephon Castle, Milwaukee's Andre Jackson Jr., and Chicago's Modest Buzelis. Baron Davis, Tracy McGrady, Kevin Garnett, and Jason Richardson, a former back-to-back dunk contest winner, were the judges. While everyone had decent attempts to start, McClung did a reverse slam over a car to open his night. Yeah. As Kenny Smith once observed, let's go home, ladies and gentlemen. Jackson Jr. and Buzelis were eliminated in the first round. Jackson Jr.'s 2 attempts looked kind of similar. Buzelis underwhelmed. McClung, who finished with 2 50s in the first round, and Castle would battle it out for the title and bragging rights. In the final, Castle caught a lob and put it through his legs for a slam. His last dunk was a 360 as he passed the ball behind his back. McClung's second-to-last dunk was throwing 2 balls in the hoop, while one of the balls was from a person spinning on a hoverboard. He finished with touching the ball on the rim and throwing it down while jumping over 6'11" Evan Mobley on a platform. McClung finished with 4 50s, 4 perfect scores. Castle had a great night as well. Now, should we just pencil in McClung for the four-peat? Finally, let's go to the All-Star Game itself, and this section is entitled The Main Course. This year's All-Star Game was the first of its kind as they played a tournament style instead of one full-length game. 3 members of the NBA on TNT crew, Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny the Jet Smith, and Charles Barkley, were general managers of their teams. WNBA legend Candace Parker was the 4th. The 2 semifinal games were Kenny's Young Stars versus Chuck's Global Stars and Shaq's OGs versus Candace's Rising Stars. The goal of these games, including the final round, was to hit or surpass 40 points. There was no clock. Chuck defeated Kenny 41-32. Shaq defeated Candace 42-35. In the end, Shaq took down Chuck 41-25. It's funny because Shaq always makes fun of Chuck that he has more rings, 4 for Shaq compared to none for Chuck. Now Shaq can add 1 more win over Chuck. Golden State's own Steph Curry was named the NBA All-Star Game Kobe Bryant Most Valuable Player. The main issue fans have had with the All-Star Game recently is the players' lack of defense and effort. No matter what you think of this tournament format, at least we saw a little bit of both this year. Defense was more noticeable in the first 2 games than at the end of the Shaq-Chuck game, however, it was there. This time around, fans had problems with there being more show and commercials than actual basketball, and heck, even the players didn't like it. And someone please take Kevin Hart's microphone away. It'll be the LA Clippers' turn to host next year. Is it too early to start the countdown clock? To get more insight into our All-Star Weekend analysis and to look at the second half of the season this week, we have our 7th guest on Diehlman at Halftime Season 2. Let's get into it. So for our 7th guest of Season 2 on the Diehlman at Halftime podcast, we welcome Kai Carlin. Kai is the Sixers Wire editor at USA Today Sports Media Group. He graduated from Stockton University with a degree in communications and a degree in communication and media studies in 2016. Kai, how are we doing today?
Good, Larry. How are you? Just over here enjoying the All-Star break.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting time. I don't know how we're at the All-Star break already, but life moves on. So, Kai, I wanted to get your thoughts on the upcoming All-Star weekend and the second half of the NBA season. So, let's start out with the first question. What do you think of the new All-Star weekend tournament format? Last year, the All-Star game final score was 211 to 186. No, that is not a typo. And fans pointed out the severe lack of defense and effort. Now we have four teams competing in a pickup style. Do you like this new change from Adam Silver?
So when it came out, I kind of thought it was just going to be like super corny, just because it's just like the All-Star game to me was already broken to begin with. So it's just like you keep doing these gimmicks and you keep doing these fixes per se, and like it's just like it never works. But with this one specifically, I'm actually kind of looking forward to maybe seeing like the tournament style type of thing. I guess the target score is 40 and like everybody will just kind of go at it. So I'm curious to see if guys are they going to take it seriously? Like obviously we got the three all-star teams and then the winner of the Rising Stars on Friday, they'll be the fourth team, all that stuff. So curious to see how that's going to play out. But apparently per Chris Haynes, I guess like the all-stars are going to have like a meeting and they're going to try and like tell each other to take this thing seriously, which I don't know if they are, but we'll see. Like we'll see how this thing works out. But again, it's new. It should bring in some type of viewership, and we'll kind of see how it looks, how it works out as the All-Star game continues to be played out.
Yeah, some good points there. And I think just looking at last year's, because that's kind of the main culprit in this scenario, just the severe defense and effort. And like you said, there might be a meeting with, let's try this thing. That might not be a good thing when you're telling each other, hey, let's take this thing seriously. And we saw last year, Damian Lillard was chucking half court shots like 10 seconds into the shot clock, like it was like a 30-foot shot. And you're taking like a 50-foot shot, like, okay, it's a warm up shot, whatever. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this works. The All-Star weekend this year in San Francisco with the Warriors. We're going to see if this works out, or maybe if we might have to go back to the drawing board again. Who knows? But Adam Silver always has something up his sleeve. So, next, the dunk contest used to be an all-star weekend spectacle. We've seen Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, Vince Carter, who could forget the Let's Go Home, Ladies and Gentlemen by Kenny Smith. So it used to be a spectacle, and now in recent years, the competitors are usually bench players and G League players. We've seen Mac McClung win it a couple times, and he plays in the G League. So why do you think stars have been backing out of the dunk contest? Is there a way for the league to see a return to the star-studded dunk contests? And I remember last year, Zion Williamson of the Pelicans said he might do a dunk contest, but only if he was in the All-Star game. So why do you think stars have been backing out?
That I can't really put my finger on it. I really can't figure out, or for the life of me, like why these guys wouldn't want to do it because like we have seen legitimate stars like hop in there like a Jordan and all those other guys, Vince Carter, and even Jason Richardson wasn't like a star, but Jason Richardson was a really good player. Like a lot of like really prominently known players get into the dunk contest. And to your point, Larry, I mean, like we've seen Mac McClung out of the G League win it the last 2 years against guys like I think the first year he won it, it was like Jericho Sims was like one of his
I think so, yeah.
yeah, guys like that. So it's one of those things where just like you need to find a way to get the stars involved because, and I've said this a million times before, I think 90% of the NBA fan base are casual fans. So it's like the casual fans are not going to know, for example, I'm looking at this year's field, they're not going to know who Andre Jackson Jr. is. Like they're not going to know who Mattis Buzelis is or Stephon Castle. They might know Castle just from his UConn days and what he's been able to do with San Antonio, but like, and they only know McClung because of the dunk contest. They don't know him for anything else besides that. So I think you got to find a way to get the casual fan back involved with this stuff. And the only way you do that is if you somehow get like a bigger name. The last like real great dunk contest was obviously Zach LaVine versus Aaron Gordon, right? We got that twice. And that like people knew who both guys were before that dunk contest, and then they just kind of blew up from there. There's got to be a way that you can get some prominent name. It doesn't have to be a star per se, but like even like a borderline star, like I don't know, like a LaMelo Ball or somebody to like get involved with something like this. I'm not saying Ball's going to go out there and dunk a bunch, but like there's got to be a way to get somebody like that, like a borderline star, to get fans back involved with this thing.
Yeah, some good points you brought up, and I actually just looked up the lineup, like you said. So you have Mac McClung, who's on the Osceola Magic. That's the Orlando Magic's affiliate. Andre Jackson of the Bucks, Stephon Castle on the Spurs, and Modest Bazulis of the Chicago Bulls. And like you said, nobody really there besides McClung himself. Okay, that's great. You're in the G League. Mac McClung has had some highlight dunks, but not really anybody there. And you brought up a good point with the Levine and Gordon dunk contests and how maybe Aaron Gordon was robbed that second time, especially. That was really the last time we really had like a good dunk contest. I mean, could you imagine if we got Zion Williamson and John Moran? Do you know how much that would bring in? Would you be like super impressed with a Zion Ja dunk contest?
1,000% I would. I mean, I'm also one of those people, like obviously I'm in it every day, right? Like obviously just as a B writer and everything, like, being around the game as much. Like I love the NBA so much to where like I'll watch any type of game. So like I know who these guys are. The casual fan's not doing that. So you have to find a way. For example, you just mentioned Zion versus Ja, right? Those are two really big name guys, both athletic as hell, can both do unbelievable things on the basketball court. And I think those two are kind of at the top of the league in terms of athleticism. And I feel like there's got to be a way to get those two into the dunk contest in order to get more eyes on it. I don't know who wouldn't want to watch Zion Williamson and John Morant go at it in a dunk contest. I think that'd be fantastic.
And we even had like Jaylen Brown, I think, what was it last year or 2 years ago, and I don't think people were that impressed with some of his dunks. But I think not only is it the players, but I think it's also some of the dunks. You only have so many ideas. There's only so many ideas before you start repeating. Like the 3-point contest, we know, okay, we're chucking threes. You have that 4-point shot thing now. But the dunk contest, you can only do so many things. Like how many times, okay, you jump over something, you touch the backboard, or you get a taco fall in there, cool. But I think the repetition, do you think maybe repetition has something to do with it too?
I don't know if repetition really has something to do with it. I feel like it's more guys not being able to do dunks on their first attempt. So it's like we're seeing them like repeat the same dunk three or four or five, six times before they finally get it on the seventh try. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, man. I mean, it took you like seven tries to do it. Like Nate Robinson was really big on that. Like I'm gonna go back to 2006. Like I think Andre Iguodala got robbed because I mean Nate Robinson, I get it. He's like very small and he's awesome and all that, but Iguodala did that behind the backboard dunk from Iverson. I think it took him like maybe one or two tries. Robinson did his dunk like 30 times before getting it done. So it's like, I think like a big reason why I think people loved Mac McClung the first time, he did everything on one attempt. Like it took him one attempt to like literally do all of those dunks. And I think that's what people want to see. They want to see you do it on the one attempt. Like I'm not trying to watch a guy do the same thing over and over again on one dunk and then finally get it done the fifth or sixth try. Like I don't know, that kind of takes away from some of the luster, at least for me.
Right. Now I get it. Definitely some good points there, and hopefully we can get the dunk contest and All-Star weekend as a whole. Hopefully we can kind of piece it back together and make it what it once was. So transitioning from that to the second half of the NBA season, it's funny when we say second half of the season. It's more like the 3/4 mark because I feel like when you get traded players, they might play like 55 games and then 27 or something. So it's kind of a weird split, but second half regardless. So is there a team that has caught you by surprise this season? For example, a team that has just exceeded expectations, and what has been a factor or multiple factors into their success?
By far, 100,000% the Detroit Pistons. That team won 14 games last year, where that team went on a 28 game losing streak. That team had, was as I said, trash written all over it. And JB Bickerstaff comes in and he's completely changed things, turned things around. So as we sit here and as we're recording this, they have 29 wins already. And they are the number 6 seed in the Eastern Conference and only a game back of the Bucks for the 5 seed. Now, listen, shout out to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're having a hell of a year. I don't think anybody expected them to have 44 wins and be the 1 seed in the East at this point in the season. I don't think anybody saw that coming. On the flip side, though, Detroit, I think I remember heading into the year, everybody would say, listen, if the Pistons can win 24 to 28 games, that's a success. And I'm like, yeah, probably. I mean, if you could double your win total from 14, like that's really good. They've already done that, and they're primed to now not just get into the playing tournament, but make the top 6. Like they have been absolutely fantastic. Cade Cunningham finally has shooters around him. Trajan Langdon, the GM, has gone in there and he's gotten guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. Malik Beasley's been fantastic. Tobias Harris, former Sixer, has done a really good job, kind of just being that veteran. Like, yo, we're gonna set a culture here. You guys are unruly youngins, and we're gonna figure this out. I'm gonna teach you guys how to win and be pros in this league, and we're gonna be fine. Yeah, to go from 14 all of last season to already 29 this year at the All-Star break, impressive. The Detroit Pistons for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely a team that was on my mind, but maybe not at the top spot. But I'm glad you brought that up. I think it was definitely a surprise that last year they had Monty Williams. You hired him, it was a 6-year deal. They were like, all right, Monty, you were on the Suns, you took them to the finals. Let's help the Pistons. 1 year in, and they give him a pink slip, get out. I won't say surprised, but it was definitely a good move that they realized, okay, maybe it was a mistake. Just cut our losses. Hello, JB Bickerstaff. So I think honestly it might have been a good move for both sides. The Cavs got rid of Bickerstaff. They get Kenny Atkinson. They're doing good. Now you got the Pistons with Bickerstaff led by Cade Cunningham, and now all of a sudden here we are doubling our win total. And like you said, trying to escape the play-in tournament. That's every team's goal these days is to get out of the play-in tournament and be one of the top six. I think the Pistons have a nice core. How far do you think, in your opinion, are we talking one playoff series win? Do you think conference finals, too optimistic? What are you thinking?
They're out round one. Like, I mean, if we're going to be completely honest with you, like they're out round one. But it's not because they don't have talent. It's because like they're extremely young, and the only guys on that roster who have playoff experience are Beasley, Harris, and Hardaway, and Schroeder, Dennis Schroeder. It's a really good deadline acquisition for them, by the way. But no, I mean, the season ended today. They would take on the New York Knicks in the playoffs, and the Pistons have had success against the Knicks during the regular season. However, we all know the playoffs are a different story. So, yeah, they're not going to beat the Knicks in a 7-game series. So, no, like this has been a terrific first step for them. They just have to build off of it now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the standings right now. Like you said, the Pistons are the sixth seed, 29 and 26 as of this recording. They're only 2 games back from the fourth seeded Pacers. So honestly, their climb might not be over right now. And they have a little bit of a lead over the Magic, who are the top seed in the play-in tournament at the moment. So they might not be done right now, but first round, I can honestly see, like you said, they're not beating the Knicks. Pacers, maybe. They're not beating the Bucks, so definitely a good choice from you. And then to wrap things up, who do you think is among the true contenders to win it all in June and why? Because you think about it, we always have the top teams in both conferences, and we're like, yup, this team's a championship contender, and then they flame out in the first or second round. Who do you think has what it takes to really be a finals contender? I feel like some people are sleeping on Cleveland. The Celtics are always there. The Thunder are disgustingly good. So who do you think is among the true contenders?
In the beginning of the year, I said it was going to be Thunder Celtics in the finals this year, and I'm fairly confident in that. I think the Lakers getting Luka Doncic, I feel like that's going to all of a sudden vault LA back in there. I think Denver is tough. I mean, you got the best player in the game. You got Nikola Jokic on your team, so they're always going to be tough. Rockets are the 4th seed in the West. I don't think they have enough just yet. I feel like if they can get to round 2, that would be a great success for them. The Grizzlies, I was high on Memphis even going into this season. I know they were awful last year, but that's because they missed half their team to injuries. I think Memphis is tough, but I don't know if they have enough to beat a team like Oklahoma City in a 7-game series. Timberwolves made the Western Conference Finals last year, but they're obviously a different team with Randall instead of Towns. Clippers, I really like, but it all depends on Kawhi Leonard. If Kawhi Leonard's going to be healthy, then sure. But if not, then the Clippers are going to have to rely on Harden and a bunch of other guys in order to get it done, right? And then out east, I think it's Boston in the field. Like, I know Cleveland's the number 1 seed. Cleveland will probably be the 1 seed entering the playoffs. The Eastern Conference will go through Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse out there. But for me, I look at the Cavaliers and I'm like, until you beat the Boston Celtics, yeah, I'm not going to believe in you just yet. The Knicks will be tough. I think the Knicks have a great chance. Outside of those 3, I don't think there's really anybody that can really challenge those top 3. Indiana is solid, but they don't play defense. The Bucks, They got Doc Rivers as coach, and we all know Doc's playoff record. Detroit, I just mentioned, they're too young. Orlando, they don't have enough offense. Great defensive team, but they can't score. Atlanta, it's just Trae Young and who else? Miami's going through a transitional period after the Jimmy Butler saga. And then after that, I don't believe in anybody from Chicago, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Toronto. Yeah, I don't believe in anybody else. It's going to be the Celtics again.
Yeah, I think the Celtics, you might as well shoe them in for at least the conference finals, potentially even the finals. The Cavs, they're definitely a young team. I could see them going on a run, but it's definitely, like you said, Celtics in the field. The West, the Thunder, the Nuggets, like you said, yeah, I think Nikola Jokic is pretty much the undisputed number one player in the league at this point. I mean, this man averages a triple-double at center. Minnesota is a different team. So there's a lot of teams I think can make a run, but I think the Thunder are just too strong right now in the West, and I think the Celtics, despite some struggles recently, I think they can make their run back to the finals, potentially even repeat. So we will see how that all plays out as we are in the midpoint of February and will soon be in the playoffs. So Kai, thank you so much for joining us today. Good to talk to you again, and we will try to get you back on soon.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me on social media. I have 2 X or Twitter accounts and 2 Instagram accounts. The podcast accounts are under @Diehlman_NBA for both X and Instagram. My personal X account is @LarryDiehlman18, and my personal Instagram is @Mr_Sports18. They're also in the description on Buzzsprout, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you to Kai Carlin for being our guest this week on the podcast. Remember, you can follow him on X and Instagram @Kai_Carlin. And don't forget to spread the word about Diehlman at halftime. Just a reminder, as we said earlier, next week we will go back to our normal programming of highlight, lowlight, random stat, and game of the week. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.